Looks like Kyle Busch wasn't the problem. He's got another sponsor, and should qualifying have stakes? Let's get into it. Coming up, hey. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing good today. All right, Kyle Busch has landed another sponsor. Netspin will sponsor Kyle Busch and Richard Childress Racing's number 8 Chevrolet in the NASCAR Cup Series. It is a multi-race deal. And it is a Texas-based company, so COTA, we do know, will be one of those races. Speaking of COTA, NASCAR is doing a Goodyear is doing a tire test down there right now. Today, it was closed to the public. Obviously, I couldn't have gone down there anyway. But anyway, getting back to the point of Kyle Busch getting another sponsor, it pokes another hole into that theory that Joe Gibbs could not find Kyle Busch a sponsor. Now, before I get into that, I want to go ahead and defend Joe Gibbs, because I know people are like, oh, you're way too harsh on Joe Gibbs. Let me go ahead and defend Joe Gibbs before I get into the point of how that story was that just a story. Look, at some point, Joe Gibbs had to get younger. At some point, one of those drivers was going to have to go, and they were going to have to bring somebody in that was younger, because you couldn't risk the chance of having all those drivers retire at the same time. So now, whether this was Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin, or Kyle Busch, the backlash was going to be the exact same. So that's what I'm saying. If you got rid of Martin Truex, you were going to get backlash. If you got rid of Denny Hamlin, you were going to get backlash. It just happened to be that Kyle Busch was the guy you got rid of. And they brought up a young guy in Ty Gibbs. Yes, he is the grandson, but where else could Ty Gibbs go in that Toyota rotation? He had already won the Xfinity Championship. He won a ton of races in the Xfinity Series. He has done nothing but win since he has joined Touring Series. So what do you really do with Ty Gibbs? Was he rushed up too early? Some will make that argument, but at the same time, what do you do with him? You can't leave him in the Xfinity Series for any longer, so somebody had to come up and somebody had to go. That is the way I look at this situation, and when you're at that level for Joe Gibbs Racing, somebody has to make that hard decision. Somebody has to make that tough call. So I will defend them from that aspect. But the aspect that they couldn't find them a full-time sponsor, maybe they were looking for one sponsor to sponsor him for the whole season. Maybe that was the problem. But the fact that they couldn't find him a sponsor, that is turning out to be just a story, right? That is just some spin, and that's fine. When you're a big corporation like that, you have to spin the story. But as we're seeing now, Kyle Busch was not the problem. It looks like, to me, in my opinion, that Joe Gibbs just wanted to get younger, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the story of them not being able to find a sponsor is kind of falling apart. And shout out to RCR, Austin Dillon, Andy Petrie, all the guys that run the deal over there, Mike Dillon, all the guys that run the deal over there. They're doing a great job finding new sponsors, not only for Kyle Busch, but they even found great new sponsors for Tyler Reddick when he was there. They have got that particular organization on an upward trend, and if they keep doing this, they could start competing. They could be another Trackhouse, or, you know, one of those teams that rises up and competes with the Goliaths of the worlds, the Gibbs, the Penske's, the Hendricks. All right, a little bit late to the party on this one, but Travis Pastrana, the reason I'm wearing the Hoonigan shirt today, of course, Travis Pastrana did one of the last Gymkhanas. Well, I think he did the last Gymkhana, the most recent one, I should say, not the last one. Anyway, he has joined up with 2311 to drive for them in the Daytona 500. So that brings to mind, now, I didn't want to be, I didn't want to do a whole deal about that. Travis Pastrana's raced in the Xfinity Series before in the number 60 for Jack Roush. A great looking paint scheme back there, by the way. But I wanted to make a bigger point about this. For the first time in a while, we're actually going to have some consequences for qualifying. And Daytona's always great for qualifying anyway, because they've got the qualifying races. But this is going to be great because you have consequences for qualifying. Not everybody is going to make this race, of course. Everybody with the charters are locked in. But it's actually going to add another layer, and this is one of the reasons the Daytona 500 is the best race, the premier race in the NASCAR Cup Series, because qualifying, even the qualifying, has consequences. With all these entries, Colleague looks like they're going to enter a car, Beard Oil, which is basically an RCR affiliate car. Then you've got 2311, they're going to enter their car. There is a possibility that Project 91 car makes an appearance. We haven't heard anything yet, but, Trackhouse likes to throw surprises. That could be one of those cars, Petty GMS or Legacy Motor Company, Motor Club, whatever. I'm still not used to that name yet, so I'm going to keep calling them Petty GMS. So with all these cars, we know at least one of them is going home, and that's not even to mention Hesburgh and these other cars that we saw last year, the Money Team, all these other cars we saw last year that barely scraped in by the skin of their teeth to get into the Daytona 500, it is going to be an absolute, it's like some big names are going to go home, right? Some big names are going to go home. So it's kind of like Indy 500 qualifying. And that harkens me to the point of, once again, I hate the charters. Because back in the day, you were either fast enough to race or you weren't. And it didn't matter who you were. Statistically, the best driver of all time, Richard Petty, 200 wins, 7 Daytona 500s. He missed a race and had to buy his way in one time. Back in the day, qualifying was so much better because it had consequences. And a lot of you have said this in the comment section, so I wanted to do this part of the video for you guys. Back in the day, qualifying had consequences, and that made the sport better because qualifying was therefore interesting. So at least qualifying at the Daytona 500 will be interesting. I don't know how they can make qualifying interesting going forward with the charters, but I thought I'd throw that out there for you guys because a lot of you had said it in the comment section, so there you go. All right, that's all I got for you on this one. If you like the content, feel free to subscribe. Hopefully I earned your subscription. All your subscriptions mean a lot to this channel, and if you're already subscribed, you know I appreciate you guys as well. If you got a comment, question, or anything like that, leave it down in the comment section. I'll try to get to as many of them as I can, and other than that, thanks for your time. Peace.